So building your character and investing in your character is 100,000 times more important than building your stock portfolio or investing in anything. Okay, so I feel like not as many people, especially young people, think about building their character and investing in it in this compound investment kind of lens. And so everybody wants good character, but nobody builds good character overnight. Similarly, with investing financially, everybody wants to be rich, but what is the general path of wealth for the normal person? Start while you're young, invest regularly into your 401k, boring, predictable funds that will increase over time. And by the time that you're older, you will have a sizable amount of wealth. Similarly, my plea is to invest in building good character from your youth, and it will compound into the future when you're older. If you start building your character while you're young, then these good habits and traits will no longer feel like work, and slowly throughout time, they'll just become part of your personality. So real quick, I want to define what I mean by character. If you were to think of what makes up a good person or a person who is nice to be around, that is generally what you would consider good character. These qualities include ones like patience, honesty, humility, self-control, kindness, empathy, etc. I used to think that when I would hit a certain age or a certain milestone in life, like getting married or having kids or something like that, I just assumed that my character would grow almost passively as I grew in age or with these milestones. And I think a lot of other people can think this way too, but this isn't really how building character works. If you think about it for a second too, I think it would kind of makes sense. You can't go through life building bad habits like procrastinating, being lazy, lying, cheating, etc. And then all of a sudden, just because you're in a different life phase or because you turn a certain age, your brain just automatically flips. And so let me walk you through a potential future where you don't work on your character and you don't invest in it. Let's say for this hypothetical that you are 50 years old, you have a spouse and you have 2 teenage children. And let's say in this situation, you have not really done much introspection throughout your life. You haven't really built your character. And so let's say that you have very bad character. And what does this look like? You gossip all the time. You talk about your coworkers, you talk about the people around you, and you can't get enough of gossip. And everybody knows that you're a gossip who talks behind people's backs. You also have crippling insecurities about a lot of things, a lot of parts about yourself. And so whenever your children or your spouse tries to talk to you and give you critical feedback about maybe things you've done or said, you completely shut down and you don't take any feedback. You also may have anger problems and you blow up at the slightest inconvenience. I imagine if you were to think about the person you would want to become, I imagine that this is not who you would want to be. I imagine this is not a future you would like for yourself or your loved ones around you. And so let me ask you this. If this does not sound like an appealing future, what are you doing to prevent it? What are you doing to build your character and make sure that you are someone who you would be proud of in the future? This is something that hits really close to home for me because I think as an adolescent and as a teenager, I feel like I always thought that the things I did, the ways that I thought, the lies that I would tell would really have no bearing for the future. And I think it's natural for everyone to have regrets in their life. But I do think when it comes to character, there are definitely certain areas of my character that I'm building right now that I really wish I had invested more time in earlier, because it takes a lot of time undoing bad habits. It takes a lot of time undoing certain mental models that you think of that are honestly just unhealthy or toxic for other people in your life and for you, that I really wish I had addressed earlier when I had the chance. So the point of this video is to really convince you and make the case that it's really important to work on your character. But you may be asking, how do I work on my character? It's not something that I'm going to dive super deeply into in this video. There are a lot of other resources and videos on YouTube that I'm sure cover those topics. But I just wanted to give like a few principles that have helped me. I think it really starts with honesty and being really honest with yourself. And I think it requires a really hard look in the mirror and asking yourself, what do I think are some of my weaknesses in terms of my character? What are some flaws that I notice about myself that I don't really think are good or serve me well? And what are some ways that I can grow? Along with that, I think it's really important to ask other people because our knowledge of ourself can be so limited, right? And so if you have family or friends or mentors or people who you believe would know you well, I really encourage you to ask for feedback. And the second principle is form accountability. I think it can be really lonely and difficult to just work on some of these things by yourself. It can also be really hard to measure. And so if you have good friends around you, ask them to check up on you and to really hold you accountable to growing in these areas. How that looks like, I'll leave that up to you, but I would really encourage involving other people around you. And so this video is not judging anybody who has bad character necessarily. This video is also not telling people that if they feel like they're older, then they cannot change themselves. However, this is a plea, especially for young people who just may not think about their character in the future, that it's something really important and something really worthwhile to think about, because your character really determines who you are, what kind of person you will be, how people will enjoy themselves around you, and to a large degree, your own happiness. I'll finally conclude with this thought. I think many people equate financial success and financial wealth with happiness and with a good future. However, I believe that you could have billions and billions of dollars, but if you are a mean and selfish and judgmental and impatient person, you will not be happy in this life. If you do agree with that statement, then you do have the power to change yourself, to build your character, to be someone who you would really want to be in the future. I hope that just the passion I have for it and the importance of it came across. And I hope at the very least it gave you something to think about. Thank you for watching and for hearing my thoughts. Bye.